Hi, I'm Monica Bain. We are live at a very hectic LegalTech New York. I am with one of my favorite people in the world, Michael Kraft, who's been on my board, I think, forever, and is one of our prolific writers, has been very active in ACT, and has Kraft Kennedy here in his general counsel.
Yes.
And we have an amazing program tomorrow, and Michael has graciously agreed to pinch hit for one of my speakers who had to withdraw. And I've been on so many panels with him. He was the first person I thought of, and we've had some very interesting experiences on some of our panels. I believe we've actually shouted at each other at some of our panels.
But lovingly.
Lovingly, always. So tomorrow at 3:30 to 5, we are going to be doing a wonderful panel that's going to be sponsored by Commvault, and it is on what I hate about technology and what I expect my outside counsel, co-counsel, opposing counsel, vendors, staff to do about it. And we've been asking people this morning. It will be at the Grand Ballroom, 3:30 to 5 on Tuesday. So come see Michael. And Michael, I'm asking everybody in our podcast and webinar today on what is your pet peeve about technology.
You know, it's interesting because in thinking about that, I think it's the alphabet soup that is attendant to whatever question you ask. If you ask anything of a technology person, they come back to you either with letters of an alphabet or numbers,
Yes.
or some combination thereof. And that's always been a problem because, you know, imagine if you're dyslexic. Okay, I'm just teasing.
I don't have to imagine. I am dyslexic on numbers, so I really relate to what you're saying.
The real issue is, it would be really nice if people could speak in English.
Wouldn't it?
Yes.
It's so kind of you to say that because, of course, everybody in the world knows that my pet peeve on the
Well,
planet.
I always just look for solutions.
Yeah, really, yeah. Well, actually, one of the vendors has a candy bar that says solutions, and I have it somewhere in the booth, but I've already blogged it and given them a hard time.
Yeah,
but
guys,
in all seriousness,
incidentally,
Yeah.
if you're talking to Monica, don't ever use the word solution.
It's banned.
You go into the penalty box.
Yes, literally, on my blog. But in all seriousness, Michael, you raised a really good point, because I think now with this economic crunch, it's going to become even more important because, let's face it, the baby boomers, we're in charge right now at the law firms. And the baby boomers, we were raised to think that only the girls touched anything with like a keyboard, and that I was told as a young lawyer I could not have a Selectric typewriter on my desk, which was at the time, this dates me, the current technology, because the clients would think I was a secretary instead of a lawyer. So there's a lot of emotional obstacles that the baby boomers who are still leading a lot of the law firms face, and they're afraid of tech, they're afraid they're going to be embarrassed. And when these folks come, like you said, and they're throwing the acronyms around, and they're this year's buzzword, revolutionary. 90% of my press, we're revolutionary this, revolutionary that. But if they come and they're talking about their robust mission critical solutions for your enterprise-wide applications and client-centric form factors, the client, I go.
Whatever she just said, I agree with.
Yeah, so I think you're right. Do you see that when you are working with Kraft Kennedy, when you're in dealing with folks?
I see it, fortunately, not internally.
I meant with the folks
well,
you're working with.
my guys recognize my limitations, so they have to speak in English in a way that even I can understand. I am our clients, so I say to them, you have to tell me exactly what it is in something that is intelligible for me. And now that brings it down to a very low grade level. You know that thing, you're smarter than a fifth grader? Yeah. I'm not.
Yeah,
so they have a lot of
smart. You're so full of it.
They have a lot to do in terms of this, but they're very good about it. And in actuality, if you think about it, if a person cannot explain it to the listener then they don't know the subject.
Amen. And when every vendor out there is using the same 12 words but meaning completely different things, no wonder the lawyers are sort of walking around like zombies and pod people. My other thing that I've noticed lately, I'm curious if you do, have you noticed the trend that a lot of consultants will put these strings of acronyms after their names and their signature? There are several offenders who I will not mention by name, but I had this dialogue with somebody on LinkedIn because this guy, he was in finance, I had no clue. He literally had 12, RSE, comma, FPIC, comma, and I finally said to him, I said, I'm just dying of curiosity. Doesn't this, it's like now this will really date me, but I'm not calling anybody a doctor who doesn't use a scalpel. I'm sorry. A PhD does not entitle you to run around and call yourself
PhD.
doctor or something.
PhD
right?
does.
Oh, please.
PhD is different than JD.
Oh, please. Oh, right. It's like...
Now, PhD, I disagree.
Yeah.
Here's where we disagree.
Okay.
Because I think a PhD is particularly difficult to get to because of the analysis and proof that you have to deliver.
I know, but they're not going to save me with appendicitis. I'm sorry.
She is old school.
I'm so old school. You'll see a lot more of this tomorrow because we're going to have a fiery panel with 6 great GC folks.
There's actually a story about this where the first woman president calls up her mother and says, come to the inauguration. I don't really want to go. No, you'll come. I don't have anything to wear. I'll have a dress made for you. Getting there is going to, no, we're going to send Air Force One. So finally talks her into going. She's sitting there in the first couple of rows and sitting next to somebody and says, I don't believe I know you. Who are you? That's my daughter who's being inaugurated. Oh, you must be so proud. Well, I am, but let me tell you, my son here, the doctor, is really who, So there you have it. There's
yes.
Monica.
And he was probably a medical doctor, not a PhD.
It definitely was a medical doctor.
On that note, come tomorrow. More of Michael, more of our fabulous panel. We're live at LegalTech New York.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you, Michael.